Thank you for that introduction. So, according to UNTWO figures, youth tourism is roughly a $400 billion industry, and about a quarter of global travellers are aged between 15 and 29. They are a group that typically travel longer than other tourists as well. But the pandemic has seen them hit as an industry, and global travel agencies that specialise in youth tourism like STA have had an uncertain future. So it's uncertain what will lie ahead. But as the world starts to get back on its feet and travel starts to regain, young travellers have been touted as likely to be the first to travel. Young travellers typically are more adventurous and they may be more open to any posed risks of travelling. But there's also an argument to state that possibly COVID-19 may have a larger effect on their viewpoints on how they see travel indefinitely. I myself came to China as a young traveller, and that certainly had a great impact on my life, both professionally and personally. And I truly believe that travel is one of the strongest influences on a person's life. So it's with great pleasure that I can get to talk about this subject today. I'm delighted to be moderating the panel entitled Getting Travellers Back on the Road, How to Attract the Youth Travel Market. And we have some fantastic speakers with us today. Before I start with my first question, I'd like to ask each panelist to briefly just state their name, their organisation, and their position. So Ethan, would you begin?
Thank you, William. Thank you having me here. I'm Ethan Zhu Ming from TripAdvisor China. As you may know, that TripAdvisor is the world's largest travel platform, helps global travelers to make the trip. They can browse the website and TripAdvisor app to get the information from the travelers all over the world. TripAdvisor has more than 800 million reviews and opinions from the real travelers. So that information is very helpful for the travelers to planning and make their trip. So they turn to TripAdvisor to compare the low prices of the hotel, cruises and flights, and book restaurants and attractions. So right now, TripAdvisor is available in more than in 49 markets and in 28 languages.
Thank you for your introduction. Ramsey?
I'm Ramsey Kerr. I'm the founder of a company called The Dragon Trip, and we have two brands. One is the Dragon Trip brand, which is an adventure tour provider for 18 to 35-year-olds. Our clients normally come from North America, Europe, and Australasia, and they travel in Asia. Japan's our biggest region. China is number 2, and Southeast Asia number 3. We also do India and South Korea and other regions like that. We have another brand called The Learning Adventure, which is an educational tour operator. So we arrange school trips in Asia and Europe for high school groups and university groups coming mainly from Europe and North America to China and Japan. They're our two biggest regions for that brand. So we've been doing that for 9 years in China now, and we take about 5,000 people traveling every year. And our mission is to expand minds through transformative travel experiences. So we really believe in the value that youth travel can bring the world.
Thank you. Anli?
Hi everyone, I'm Anli, Head of Public Policy Airbnb China. 大家好，我是安利，是爱彼迎中国。Airbnb is a travel platform. We offer the variety of the accommodation and experience activities globally. We hope we can offer those all the authentic and unique experience, which our mission is make everyone is belonging everywhere.
Fantastic. And Zhang Mei, please introduce yourself.
Hi, yes, thank you. I'm Zhang Mei. I'm the founder of WildChina. This is our 20th year. I cannot imagine celebrating like this. We specialize in creating interesting experiences traveling around China. We have leisure travel and education, actually. And we also have WildChina corporate. So we run events out in Kashgar's deserts or tented camping in Mongolia or travel along the Tianhe Caravan Road. Anywhere interesting in China.
Fantastic.
Thank you for having me.
Great. Thank you all for your brief introductions. So I'll begin with the questions now. And my first question is directed at Zhang Mei, and I'll later also pose the same question to Ethan. So Zhang Mei, as I mentioned a little bit, young people have been heralded as the saviors of the tourism industry, stating that they are most likely to be the first to travel once regions reopen. To what extent do you think that this will be true?
Okay. Before I go on to confirm what everybody here already believes to be true, I just want to share one data point, because right beforehand, before this our get together, I texted my 73-year-old father who is in Kunming. And so far this year, he's done 5 trips post-COVID. And I've done none. So my point is to say age really doesn't matter. It's sort of in the mindset of the traveler, but also it's business excellence that matters in the end. But that said, we know the numbers in China. Since this summer, I believe I've seen numbers from Qunar, from Ctrip, from Meituan, and all these numbers confirm 80 to 90% of the purchases are from millennials, right? And what is driving that? Obviously, number one, the millennials are the new generation who no longer looks at travel as sort of a nice to have. They really look at it as their sort of definition, their identity. It's their way of life, right? And now they have the money and they have more information to judge whether they can take the risk or not. And so far, everyone believes they can. And they also are in the position to make decisions for their children and maybe their parents. So I think this has driven a lot on the youth purchases. And secondly, I would say it's really kudos to the industry, very fast in pivoting product innovation from long haul trips, international trips, to immediately very creative trips around China, package tours to Gansu, or small little 3-day weekend trips in Yunnan. All these quick pivoting is catching the young travelers very quickly as well. And thirdly, I would say it's the innovation in China in sales and marketing. I can't believe Liang Jianzhang, whom I used to work for, is doing all these live streaming and having 66 million viewers. And these are all online sales channels, right? And Xiaohongshu and TikTok, very popular now. And all of these are on the screen. So obviously it tilts towards the younger generation. But I would conclude by cautioning, though, even though the trend is going that way, when you look at the absolute number, there is still a significant number of travelers out there that are not in the youth generation. So I would encourage anyone serving the segments that's not youth generation, do not despair. As long as you have a good business, there's a future.
Yes, look, some nice points there, and nice to hear your 73-year-old grandfather father is exploring the country in this period.
Yes.
Ethan, would you care to add some of your points on whether you view young people as the saviors of the tourism industry in the years to come?
Yeah, sure. I think we are talking about international travel. So there are 2 major types of the travel: business travel and leisure travel. My guess is the business travel will begin first because there's strong demands, but we don't have exact number. I haven't seen any exact number to show that the young people will be the first for the business travel. But for leisure travel, there's some reason that we believe young traveler could be the major part of the group because number one, as you said, the young people is passionate with travel and they are adventurous. And I think there are some other reasons we can we believe that the young people are more aggressive, more willing to travel after the COVID-19. Number one, data shows that young travelers is more willing to travel solo or travel with their partner. So traveling after the COVID-19 in a small group is more flexible and more easy to manage than a bigger group like family trip. And number two, I think the young travelers always want to explore some new places, new destination. They would like to, they prefer to visit the off-beaten path. So in that area, in that those destinations, people maybe not that crowded. So maybe it's a little bit more easier for them to keep the social distancing. So less risky. So my guess is for the leisure travel, young people could be the major group. So I think the return to travel is gradual, but right now we have already seen some early signs of recovery in the travel planning behavior of millions of travelers across the globe who are actively planning and dreaming for their next trip. So it's begin from the local trip and domestic trip and followed by the international travel. So ultimately the data reviews that what the data review is a strong desire of international travel. So it's a good news.
Lovely points there, Ethan. Yeah, I think both you and Zhang Mei touched on that sort of necessity to travel that young people have and that passion that will definitely drive them out the door at first. And I like that you picked up on the fact that maybe young travelers are more open to being solo travelers, you know, putting on a backpack and exploring different parts of China is something that I did when I was a little bit younger. So I definitely think that's a way that people can travel in sort of a COVID world and feel a little bit safer. So I definitely feel that young people may choose that path. Thank you both for your answers. My next question is directed at you, Ramsey. You've taken thousands of young travelers into China to explore. What aspects of China, in particular Beijing, do you think resonate and excite young foreign travelers the most?
So I think the main driving factor that brings young people to want to see China is for the cultural and social experience. We know that China is such a beautiful country, especially out west. But I think actually, you know, unlike Southeast Asia, a destination like that, which attracts a lot of young people for natural beauty plus the sort of party scene for the young travelers, I think China, they're attracted for different reasons. It's this social and cultural reasons that they're attracted by. China is a country of superlatives. You know, it has the highest or biggest or greatest of everything, you know, whether it's the biggest population in the world, the highest GDP growth, the most number of new skyscrapers, the longest walls, the highest mountains. It's all the biggest and the best is in China. And I think people hear about that internationally and they want to come and see it for themselves. And Beijing, I think, exemplifies all of those superlatives. The seat of government's here in Tiananmen Square, when you come and see the world's largest square and then see the huge hall of the people, just the scale of it all is so impressive and such an interesting thing to come and see. So I think that's a big pull for a lot of young people. You know, I'd say in the country, we see two big pulls as to specific things people want to see when they're here, and that's, of course, pandas. You know, we do try and get pandas in a lot of our marketing imagery. It's just such a big pull for young people. They want to come and see these pandas, and also the Great Wall. And so that's what brings a lot of people to Beijing, is to see the Great Wall. In terms of food, obviously food is a big driver for why a lot of people travel. I think within China, we know there's so many different famous dishes, you know, whether it's hot pot in Chongqing or Sichuan, or rice noodles in Guilin, or xiaolongbao in Shanghai, or inside China, they're all quite famous, but I would say for our young foreign visitors coming here, there's one food which they really want to try and is famous for them, and that's of course Beijing roast duck. And so when they come to Beijing, they've got to try that. And even myself last night did call into Chuanchu last night and have a little bit of Beijing roast duck. And when I was in that area having roast duck last night, it was great to wander through Tiananmen and go past our partner hostel, Leo Hostel, and bumped into the boss of that hostel, Noodles is his name, and he was telling me that his hostel is reopening in 5 days. So it's so important for young travelers to have a great hostel like that that they can stay in when they visit Beijing. So I was so pleased to see that hostel is reopening, and so there's so many different cultural and social factors which would appeal to young travelers coming to Beijing, I think.
Thanks for your points, Ramsey. Yeah, I think the aspects of those superlatives of China is definitely something that, it's great to put on marketing materials for inbound operators and, for people coming over to experience, as you mentioned, sort of food, pandas, the Great Wall are all great ways to really push this destination and sort of market it differently from other Asia cities. Thank you. My next question is directed at Ethan. So young travelers today have so much content available to them when they're planning the trip, be it online review platforms, influencers, blogs, etc. From your experience, what are the key drivers for influencing young travelers in their trip planning?
Yeah, that's a good question. TripAdvisor always do some global surveys to understand the global travelers better. So from the survey, we learned that there are a lot of different types of content which has impact on their travel planning. But the top one, the content has the greatest influence is the recommendation from the friends they trust. As for the general travelers, from younger travelers to the older, but I think it makes sense because the friend may go there, may went there and have the real experiences. But there are also some other content do have influence, like reviews and the video from influencers. But the travel planning process is a long process with several phases. At the very beginning, the travelers need to make a decision on the destination, and after that, they will plan where to go in the destination and where to stay. From my experiences, the content generated by influencer always has influence on the decision making for the destination or some attractions, experiences. But when travelers book a hotel or book attractions, they always turn to some website to browse the travelers' reviews, to compare the price and to check the exclusive offers. So those information are very important during the hotel booking path. So it's complicated, but we also have some data shows that the travelers willing to watch videos of the destinations, or some of them prefer to watch the travel show or some documentary about the destination to learn more about there. So I guess a lot of foreigners, when they are get interested in Forbidden City, is after they watch the movie The Last Emperor. So those content are all influence to the travel planning.
Yeah, I think sort of movies and film and TV, etc. Things like Mulan, which is being recently released, has more sort of people's eyeballs on China and get people excited about the destination. And I think influencers that you mentioned, today we're in Longfusi, a recently opened site, and recently becoming very popular, especially for this rooftop that we're on, for its great views. And once international travel regains, I'm sure this will be a popular space for young foreign influencers to take photos as well. Thank you for your answers. My next question is directed at Anli. There's been a huge shift in travelers wanting to experience a destination in recent years. How do you think Beijing as a destination can embrace this desire?
The information and communication technology development in the past few years has had significant impact on the travel industry and also on the traveler behavior, as well as the way the city to promote itself. It's also transforming the nature of the travel and the actual tourism experience. Airbnb as a travel platform, the technology allow us to stay and the things to do to connect the traveler around the world. To connect the travelers around the world. Now we have 7 million accommodations and 50,000 experience activities around the world, which can offer the traveler the unique and authentic experiences. We think the traditional culture, as Isi just mentioned the culture, we think the traditional culture could be the window for the Beijing as destination. Through the different experiences, we have the city to remain some of the traditional culture and for the host and contribute to the local community. Take our intangible cultural heritage cooperation with Dongcheng as example. We have the craftsmen to put their traditional activities on the Airbnb. In short, we productize their traditional culture, their traditional crafts skills to have the open the booking for the guest from the global. The project has a showcase the Airbnb, we have the contemporary tourism product concept, and also we have to promote the integration of culture and the tourism. One of the experiences I personally attended this, I really enjoy and love it. It's called the doll sculpture of the mast. So it's very interesting. You can see how to make the dolls, and they teach you how to do this. It's I think till now, among the 87 bookings, they have the 44 out of 87 is all the 5-star review, which is 5 is the full score. So it's really great. We saw the young people coming, as Ethan mentioned earlier, the people they coming in a really small group. We saw the family coming, the young parents with their children. They all really enjoying this. It's not only the domestic people, the Beijingers, people who living in this city. It's also the foreigner, it's people from everywhere. So we know the people, especially the young people, they love this experience. So this kind of the product, we call this travel product, is not only benefit the community, it's also have the opportunity to bring all the community together, and they have this sense of the pride for their traditional culture. It's not only about pass along, it also helps them to promote this. And also as a platform, Airbnb as a platform, all those kind of the activities we can offer back, all those economic and social benefit to the community.
Fantastic. It sounds like you're doing some great projects in Beijing, and I definitely think having some of these traditional, intangible sort of cultural heritages to be sort of shown in a more modern way and allowing young travelers to experience is definitely a way for them to connect a little bit deeper with the destination, to come back with a new skill, whether it be doll making or whatever new sort of skill that they pick up is something that they can take back to their own country. I know myself with when I first went back the Jianzi that game is very popular with young people here, and I think taking it back to UK, people were very interested to play it when I first came back. So it's great to hear that you're doing so many different projects. For my final question, oh sorry, not my final question, my penultimate question is over to Jiang Mei. So I'd like to ask you, Jiang Mei, how can Beijing compete with other top Asia city destinations in its effort to attract more young travelers?
Okay. Honestly, I don't think Beijing's competitors are the other capitals around Asia. I think her biggest competitor is her old self. What do I mean by that? Let me talk about this in 3 areas. Number one is branding and positioning. You know, the Beijing has been branded as the ancient capital of China. I mean, it is. But this old madame is not so endearing from time to time to the young people, right? And it's great to see the Forbidden City and the Great Wall. But Beijing is also so trendy, so cool, so innovative in technology, very cosmopolitan. You can get great food, great coffee and everything, and very friendly. We need to somehow tweak the position, change the positioning to showcase the trendy part of Beijing. This positioning would allow Beijing to be on par with Berlin, New York, London. So this is number one. Number two, I'm totally supportive of what Airbnb and Anli's team is doing there. Product innovation. And Ramsey, I agree with you. People love to go see the Hutongs and Beijing duck and all of that. But going forward for the young people, I think there needs to be more. There needs to be more interactive experiences to find a deeper connection with Beijing, right? For example, one of our most popular experiences that clients love is one is cooking in the Hutong. Another one is old Beijing's breakfast walk. Another one is nighttime bar crawl through all the bars in Beijing, right? And I would add one more personally, like I don't think I want to take a cable car up to see Badaling Great Wall again, but I want to go camping, go hiking for 3 days and camp on the watchtowers. It would be amazing. So product innovation, this is something that would make Beijing very exciting. And lastly, I would say that's the last thing, but it's a difficult thing, is logistics, infrastructure. Beijing is incredibly convenient for domestic Chinese travelers. But when it comes to WeChat, social media, visa issues, international travelers are not quite happy yet with the current solutions. But I'm sure we can find a way. It just takes a little bit of time. So I have no doubt Beijing can become this very attractive, sort of sophisticated destination for young travelers from around the world.
Thank you for those points, Jiang Mei. Just keeping up as a trendy city is something I think Beijing can really push in its marketing as it becomes more of a cosmopolitan city. My final question is to both Ramsey and Anli. As we're short of time, let's make these sort of direct and to the point, but it's rather a big question. Do you think that COVID-19 will have long-lasting effects on the way young people travel in years to come? Ramsey, if you'd like to first answer.
Well, it's a huge question, and it's one that a lot of travel companies around the world are trying to work out their answers to at the moment, and there's a lot of debate on it. I know your boss over at Airbnb has been giving lots of interviews with his opinions on the way that it might change people traveling in the long term, and it's been really interesting hearing those viewpoints. My personal opinion is that once a vaccine is in place, a reliable vaccine where people really have absolute confidence that they can travel without any risk of getting ill, I think travel won't be so different in the long run. If we're looking at the data, Google searches for hotels in July globally were up 37%. And in a lot of those regions, coronavirus is still very present. Yet despite that, there's still this growing demand for hotel bookings. I think people are so keen to get traveling again. It's great to hear that at TripAdvisor, you're saying the data indicates that there is demand returning for travel. At trip.com, during the crisis, 50 to 60% of people didn't actually cancel their bookings. They held their bookings and they just changed the dates, or they modified their bookings in some way, but they didn't actually cancel, which for me demonstrates I think people do want to get back to traveling as they did before, once it's safe to do so. I think what might change more is the industry. There is, sadly, we're seeing it with our suppliers. A lot of travel companies are going out of business at the moment. A lot of hotels might not survive this crisis. A lot of suppliers might not survive this crisis. We've seen STA, the world's largest travel company, a youth travel company last week, they announced they were going into administration. So there's going to be less competition, I think, after this crisis. And I think for travel companies that do survive and are still there, I think they'll be maybe offering less discounting. Once the crisis is over, everyone's cash reserves will be depleted. And I think, whilst people try and recover from their wounds of the crisis, and whilst travel companies try and recover, there might be less discounting on offer. I think one major change from customers will be and travelers will be that they'll be much more aware of booking security when they make a booking. Before, something like a pandemic probably seemed like something that never really happens, and you don't really need to worry about, can I get my money back if there's a big worldwide crisis? You kind of don't believe it will happen. I think now people will be very aware that it is something that can happen, and that when you book, you want to make sure, okay, what are my protections? Will I get my money back? So I think we'll see that change in consumers.
Yeah, some very interesting points there. Anne Lee, would you like to add anything?
Yeah, before I answer the question, I just echo to what Zhang Mei just said. The people want to diversify, unusual ways to explore the city. Everything you can find at Airbnb, the new ways, the different ways you can explore the city. But back to the question. We do think that we have the long-lasting impact on how the young people travel. Right now, we see the two changes already. The first one is short-distance travel. The second one is about the quality and the unique of their travel experience. The travel industry, including Airbnb, has been hit hard by the COVID-19, and there will continue to be the tremendous uncertainty in this. At present, when we talk about the travel is mainly domestic, as international border remain closed. But the good news is that our booking data has already show the travel is beginning to bounce back, especially for the short distance travel. They show the quick recoveries among the young generations. There's a more open to resume travel in the first wave after the COVID. So to comply with this trend, the Airbnb launched the Go Near, which is a short distance travel, Go Near campaign, a new initiative to support economic growth through the local travel. Talk about the second point is about unique and the quality of the travel experience. We all talk about the customized travel. People don't want to go with a larger group. So according to the research conducted by the CAS, the Chinese Academy of Social Science, after COVID-19, people care the two things mostly, the safety and the sanitary condition. So for young people, the young people as well, as government, they handle the crisis and begin to review the restriction in advance of reopen their community to the travel. Airbnb is also launched the Airbnb enhanced cleaning for the future travel. So that's the things we'll do to help the common things we help those of the travel industry to when they're bounce back recovery. Secondly, the users are still willing to embrace the unique experience of the destination. We just mentioned about the hutong, your experience to, after you eat the Beijing duck, you're walking around. Also based on the search by the CAS, the working in the hutong, random working in the hutong or the, in a small group is more welcomed by the young people compared with visit Forbidden City or the Great Wall. I think all the three speakers mentioned this early. It's also proved by the CAS research. So people could just use the TripAdvisor for the local travel guide and drop in some restaurants for the local taste. It's more random, it's customized, it's unique. For the Airbnb, we also inspired by the trend among these people, young people, and also we developed the online experience, which is compared with the traditional experience we used in the past. On those online experience, we can unlock the success to the culture and the traditions from around the world. Most of our user is among the age 25 to 35. So those group of people is they have desire to travel, like the sports tourism, ice and snow tourism. Also, we're really proud as the youngest top sponsor for the Olympic game. We just launched the initiative with IOC, International Olympic Committee, and IPC, International Paralympic Committee, for the summer festival, which we have over 100 Olympic experience hosted by some of the best the world asset to introduce to the people. Last but not last, as our Beijing Olympic project, we are going to develop the Olympic family project to provide the accommodation in the host cities. It's to inspire the sports spirit among the younger generation, as well as to empower the local and the community.
Fantastic. It sounds like you've got some great programs with the Olympics coming up. And I think as a sort of sum up of both of your points in terms of sort of that long-lasting effects, I think that's about the safety of travel and people maybe being more singular in their experience and being conscious of a destination's sanitary records, etc. It's going to be key. And I think Ramsey, you made an interesting point about the fact of security and awareness of booking, and how when people book they want to know that basically if something happens, how will they be treated. I think that's one of the key changes in people's mindsets. Well, I think that's all we have time for today. And thank you all panelists for your great viewpoints. It was really interesting to have this chat, and I was honored to moderate today. So thank you all for coming.
Thanks
Thank
very
you.
much for having
Thank
us.
Great meeting all of you. Take care.
All right.